don't know for sure what it's going to do because nobody's putting any brakes on it.
Chat GPT and AI has made us lazy because the answer is right in front of you, but you have to be willing to do your due diligence.
One of the things I just worry about is that less some kind of guardrails around how this is being done and what's being done with it. Science fiction has a funny way of becoming science fact.
You need to be hammering home to every single person in your company, not just don't put in PII, maybe don't put in trade secrets.
Welcome to Primal HR, real people, real talk, real HR. The human side of work from the people who live it every day. Here are your hosts, longtime HR leader Terry Smith and People First strategist Leslie Lulham.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Primal HR. In this episode, Terry and I are going to be unpacking some of the pitfalls of utilizing AI.
Yes, it's definitely a two-edged sword, and in our last episode we talked a lot about some of the things that you can do with AI, and we want to spend a few minutes in our HR world talking about things that you just want to be careful about and thoughtful of in your use of AI.
There's a lot that you can put into AI, and there is a way to ask questions and to prompt your AI preferred system. And we want to talk about those and some of the implications that they can cause and some of the downstream effects. So I know Terry has
a few
thoughts. Just a couple on this one. So take it away.
All right. Well, there were these very famous instances early on in the game of AI coming up with just bizarre interpretations of data, casting historical figures in very different angles and looks and so forth. And this was all very much excitable material for the media at the time because, clearly AI is not as smart as we think it is and all that. And the reality is sort of this. Think of it as a child. When AI was doing some of these weird, quirky things early on, it had no context for any of what was being put out there. And so naturally, there's going to be some things that just didn't make sense. How often does a child say something that doesn't make sense? Probably a lot. And it's not so much that I'm excusing the behavior, I'm not. But what I do want people to think about is that when you interact with something that has a very limited contextual understanding of the world, you need to really, really understand how to engage with that limitation, to understand that there are ways that we talk to each other, and there are ways that we write to each other, and there are ways that we communicate with each other that are part of our cultural lexicon, that are part of our background, that we can make certain basic assumptions about each other's trying to say to the other based on just having that cultural context, based on having some level of understanding of who you are, who I am, who he is, and we can do that, and we can move our communication forward in that way. Chat and Claude and Gemini and they don't have that yet, right? And they certainly don't have that on a personal level, and they may never have that on a personal level. So we may never get to a point where we're having a conversation between, say, me and Chat or you and Gemini that would be the same kind of conversation that you and I are having. So you have to start with understanding that you're coming at it from a very, very foundational level. Just the very words and nuances of words that you use in your prompts will have a significant effect on the output. In other words, if you provide a prompt that is based on, a cultural idiom or based on something that you've learned and internalized and it has become second nature to the way that you talk or express yourself, that's going to come through in how you write. You have to be very conscious in your prompt work about a very, very neutral way of describing a person, place, or thing in the prompt that you're putting forward to your chat.
To kind of put it in perspective for some folks, and this just popped into my head as you were explaining talking to another human. You can see the body language. You can hear the voice inflections. We know the cultural norms. Think about when you get one of those text messages from somebody and they put a period instead of an exclamation point, or they don't have any punctuation after, all of a sudden you don't know what that text means. I'm fine could be I'm fine. I'm fine. And for those of us who overthink everything, like yours truly, the context matters. And ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, they can't hear your voice inflections, especially if you're typing it. And so you really have to be vigilant. In our previous episode, I also talked about prompting the prompt. You want to set the context for what you're about to do, and then make sure you're using neutral language. We don't want to introduce bias accidentally. And as humans, we are biased. We all have subconscious bias and maybe not so subconscious bias that are impacting how we move around the world. That is also going to impact how you're prompting your chat. Into what Terry said early on, AI was fabricating things. We're still hearing to this day about lawyers who are using ChatGPT. ChatGPT is referencing cases that look real, that never happened, that are getting presented to judges.
Yeah.
Okay? You can't rely on the first thing that comes out of ChatGPT. If it looks too good to be true, hey, maybe you struck gold. Go cross-check it yourself. Go do a little bit of research. I think the introduction of ChatGPT and AI, this is a hot take, has made us lazy in some terms because the answer is right in front of you. But you have to be willing to do your due diligence. Just like we all know we don't do math with ChatGPT. It's terrible at math. It applies across the board.
You know, and you made a comment earlier that I just wanted to circle back on, which is body language, tone of voice, inflection, nuance, right? Even if something like Chat or Gemini or whatever, even if it has a way to hear it, doesn't mean it understands it.
That's true.
And that's really, again, we're so accustomed to things that we're accustomed to, like the tone of my voice, like our eye contact, like, you know, your body language, your inflections, your tone, all that. So we're just used to that. I'm using different tones and different ways of expressing myself at this moment, right? You can hear my voice go up and down and so on. It means nothing to AI. It means nothing. So I could make an emphatic statement, even, you know, and there are some systems where you can actually talk to it, but it doesn't know why. It doesn't understand what you're doing with your voice. And I don't know if it ever will. Crystal ball, who knows? But that in and of itself should tell us a lot.
Exactly. I think you're spot on there. I'm halfway expecting like the Terminator to just like bust into the room right now. Because when AI really started taking off, I know in the last episode you said you were not an early adopter. I was a very early adopter. In fact, it was my job at a previous company to help roll out the use of AI tools across the company, help train people up on it. And even then, a lot of us were hyper aware of what you do and don't put into ChatGPT. ChatGPT was the one at the time. PII. I'm going to say it 9,000 times. Do not put PII into ChatGPT. PII is personally identifying information.
Yes.
First name, last name, address,
Telephone
email
number.
address, phone number, social security number, medical records.
Right.
You can use AI tools to help you navigate maybe something like an accommodation request that comes up in the HR world very frequently. It's not out of the normal for somebody to need an accommodation. Yes, we have tools that can make navigating this very nuanced, highly specific, and extremely regulated process a little bit easier. But you should never be feeding it information about employees.
Never. Just never.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. You made a comment that I just want to pile on a little bit. You talked about the Terminator, right? We all know that, or most of us do. You know.
I hope you do. If you don't, go watch it.
Yeah, especially the second one. That's a really good one. But, you know, and we all chuckle about it, you know, Skynet and you know, the machines take over and all that jazz, right? Well, it started someplace, right? I mean, in the story, right? OpenAI, who knows, right? And again, one of the things I just worry about is that less some kind of guardrails around how this is being done and what's being done with it. Science fiction has a funny way of becoming science fact, right?
That's true. And to the guardrails point, I think it's important for companies, if your company is not already doing this, implement policies and procedures for the use of AI tools.
Yes.
It's hard to enforce. I will say that. That said, we need best practices. You need to be hammering home to every single person in your company. Not just don't put in PII, maybe don't put in trade secrets.
Yeah.
Anything that's confidential to the company. And you do have to spell that out for people. I've heard stories of people in tech roles saying, well, this is what ChatGPT said to do. And it's common. I hear about it all the time. But what about the person that was hired? What do you have to say about that?
Yeah.
And so having trainings and guidelines around these types of things, especially when we don't know what the future of AI, Skynet, Cyberdyne is going to hold. What's it going to be trained on? Because Terry and I, before we started recording today, we're talking about the Amazon Echo, which I have. And when they were first released, they had a lot of guardrails around when they would be listening, when they would be not. And then like last year, they said now it's always going to be listening. And then you start hearing them talking about how they're going to be sharing that data more and more, where when it first launched, you thought your data was secure.
And it's not.
Now it's not. We're going to see the same things happening. It happens all the time. So be careful. The cautionary tale of the overuse of AI.
That's right. That's right. Well, and the Alexa and the Echo platform, very good example of AI that came into our world and we didn't even know, right? I mean, in that particular case, I was an early adopter. I had an early model of one of the boxes on the countertop, and it listens. I mean, it was listening then. And we knew it was listening because every once in a while it would say something to us. And most of us that have had this thing in our households have had this experience. I know you have. You're talking to a friend. You're talking to somebody else named Alexa. Or in our case...
Happened to me.
Yeah. We had 2 Alexases in our family at various points. And every time we say something, to one or the other of them, the box would talk. What do you want? Can I help you? But it's not listening officially. That was the thing. It's not listening. Only now we know, well, yes, it is. Not only is it listening, but we're going to record all of it.
It's going to record it.
And, I'm fairly certain that it was doing it from the get-go.
Sigh.
So, as Leslie points out, right, cautionary note, cautionary tale. And particularly in HR, the whole space around best practice, policy and procedure, this is all still kind of the wild, wild west in AI terms. I mean, we can take basic privacy and, non-compete information and so on and just kind of clone it with AI to be able to apply to AI. But the point is, it's all still new. We're still all developing that. I can guarantee you it's not going to look the same thing as it today as it will in, 2030.
Right. And we're already seeing, we saw GDPR roll out several years ago that impacted how we use websites. We have different states now all rolling out CCPA. Is that what it's called? It's California's version of GDPR.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to sound smart there for a second. I know what it is. I've helped implement it. That said, states are also going to start having their own regulations on their uses of AI and when you need to notify someone, when you don't, and it's going to become very complex, just like the rest of the internet.
Yes.
And what is legal, what is not, and it'll be very interesting, I think, to see how that changes. What companies that are currently at the top of their game for AI are still around. Right. I saw today on LinkedIn, someone said, I have a prediction that OpenAI is going to become the Yahoo or AOL of the AI space.
Wow.
It's going to be the old one. Mm-hmm. It kind of made me sad. But, it is what it is. And these tools are going to keep cropping up. You see it in the marketing team or marketing realm all the time. New tools are being hundreds a day. Mm-hmm. How do you possibly stay on top of this unless you dedicate your whole life and time to just staying on top of it?
Right.
So it's a wormhole that's very easy to go down, and being cautious is, I think, the biggest takeaway Terry and I want you to make sure you're aware of, especially when you're in a field that deals with such nuance, so many strict laws, and so much sensitive information.
So much PII.
PII. Don't put it in AI.
Yes.
Ooh, we can make I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
Tempting, but no.
And it does. I mean, here's kind of a fun story if we want. Some of you may or may not know I am a drummer, and I do use AI tools to help with some of my drumming, breaking down different methodologies and going deep down the rabbit hole of music. And a couple of weeks ago, I was researching a very popular jazz drummer, and this individual had a song that was named after a woman, and I wanted to know who this was. Is this his wife? Is this his friend? Is this his sister? Why is the song's name what it is? I went to ChatGPT for it because I was like, there's no way it can get this wrong. Oh my gosh. ChatGPT made a whole story about this gentleman and his wife, who was not the name of the song, and I was literally arguing with ChatGPT now. I was like, that's not his wife's name. His wife is this. And then ChatGPT was like, no, it's not. And I was like, bro, check your resources. Like, I will give you the link. That's not what that is. And it's funny.
Yeah.
I have argued with ChatGPT. Yeah, I mean, we duke it out sometimes, but it was so blatantly wrong on such a very simple thing that it did give me pause. And I was like, okay, well, clearly we're not using this for this anymore.
Right.
But if it's as something as funny as researching a song name who I wanted to see if it was a drummer's wife, because I thought it was very sweet and I wanted to unpack the emotional nuance of the song.
Right.
And it was so wrong. Not even a little bit wrong. Like, it made up a whole arc about this non-existent woman. Then what can it do with very specific and very sensitive data if you put it in there? So be careful, folks. Use it. If you're not using AI, you're behind.
Yes.
Get in there, use the tools, familiarize yourself with the tools. If you have questions about the tools or want to nerd out on anything AI, contact us at the email in our website. We would love to. We'd love to chat with you about it. That said, be careful.
Please be careful.
Got thoughts, hot takes, or questions? Email us at primalhrpodcast@gmail.com.
Stay connected with us on social. We're at Primal HR Podcast everywhere.
You've been listening to Primal HR. Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Join the conversation on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook at Primal HR Podcast. Show notes and more at primalhrpodcast.com. Got a topic idea or want to join us on the show? Reach out at primalhrpodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.